Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Today we're going to be discussing the Potter family, Godric's Hollow, Voldemort, and October 31st, 1981. Specifically, we're going to be tackling the question of why James Potter didn't act as his own secret keeper, instead entrusting the responsibility with known rat Peter Pettigrew. Join me as we dive deep into the Fidelius charm and the role of the secret keeper in the tragic events that led to the downfall of James and Lily Potter. Let's get started. We all know how devastating it was when the Potters were killed, leaving baby Harry as the only survivor. It was a defining moment in the story of the boy who lived, and many fans have debated the events that led to their untimely deaths. To understand what happened, we need to take a closer look at the Fidelius charm. This powerful spell is used to keep secrets hidden and secure, and it relies on the presence of an individual known as a secret keeper. But what happens when the secret keeper is not the best choice? What if choosing differently could have saved lives? To answer these questions, we first need to properly grasp what the Fidelius charm is, and what being a secret keeper really means. Imagine a spell so powerful it can hide the location of an object or person from prying eyes. That's the Fidelius charm. This ancient and complex enchantment is one of the most formidable defensive spells in the wizarding world. The Fidelius charm works by confining the secret, in this instance the location of the Potter cottage, within the soul of a designated secret keeper. Only the secret keeper possesses the knowledge of the hidden location, while all others remain completely unaware. Think of it as an invisible magical lock, guarding the secret with an unbreakable bond. But as powerful as the Fidelius charm is, its effects are useless without a reliable secret keeper. Selecting the right secret keeper is no easy task, and the task becomes even more crucial when life and death are at stake. It requires absolute trust and loyalty, as the person chosen holds the key to the hidden secret. The identity of the secret keeper is known only to the person who cast the charm and the secret keeper themselves. The Potter's decision. Now, let's dive into the heart of the matter. Why did James Potter choose Peter Pettigrew as his secret keeper instead of being his own? It's a question that has haunted fans for years. Let me start by addressing the first part of the question, why Peter? Lifelong friends. James, Sirius, Remus and Peter, the Marauders, were tight-knit, and their friendship ran deep. They shared adventures, mischief and secrets during their time at Hogwarts, forming an unbreakable bond. James and Peter were lifelong friends, and they really didn't have any reason not to trust Peter. A diversionary tactic. For those unaware, James Potter actually initially chose Sirius Black as his secret keeper. In fact, Sirius was the man who most believed to be the Potter's secret keeper. However, Sirius, thinking that Voldemort might target him, suggested that they choose Pettigrew instead. The following excerpt from Sirius addresses this. Lily and James only made you secret keeper because I suggested it. I thought it was the perfect plan. Voldemort would be sure to come after me, would never dream they'd use a weak, talentless thing like you. It must have been the finest moment of your miserable life, telling Voldemort you could hand him the Potters. By selecting Peter, the seemingly least likely candidate, they hoped to throw off the scent. Unforeseen betrayal. After being made secret keeper, it didn't take Peter Pettigrew long to reveal his true colors. In one infamous act of cowardice and disloyalty, revealing the location of the Potter cottage to Voldemort. Peter was no friend of James, but instead a cowardly Death Eater sympathizer who went wherever he believed the power to be. Peter's cowardice inevitably cost James and Lily Potter their lives, effectively orphaning the boy who lived. Alternative secret keepers. Provided that the downfall of the Potters was almost exclusively due to their choice of secret keeper, I can't help but ask myself, what if someone else was chosen? And who better to leave the secret with than the Potter family themselves? Would James have survived if he had chosen himself as the secret keeper? What if he conjured up the courage to trust in his own ability to protect his family? The first thing I'll mention is that there's a fair bit of ambiguity with regards to who's actually qualified to be a secret keeper. In the Deathly Hallows, it's revealed that Bill Weasley is the secret keeper for Shell Cottage, and Arthur Weasley is the secret keeper for the Burrow. Given that these are their places of residence, it proves, I think, that a person who lives in the house being protected can also be eligible to be its secret keeper. By this logic, James Potter would have been a suitable candidate to be the secret keeper for their cottage in Godric's Hollow. One possible reason why James may have opted not to assume the role of secret keeper for his own home could be due to the fact that he himself needed to remain hidden from potential threats. It's speculated that the Fidelius charm makes the dwelling untraceable through means such as owls and Patronus communication, and in this regard, Arthur and Bill Weasley had the advantage of Potter Watch to stay on top of ever-changing events in the wizarding world. This resource was not available during the First War, meaning that if James were to serve as his own secret keeper and go into hiding, the Potters would not only be untraceable, but also entirely disconnected from the wizarding world. Alternatively, James could have chosen to appoint himself as secret keeper and disclose the secret to a trusted confidant who would act as the intermediary between the Potters and the Order of the Phoenix. Sirius would be the obvious choice here. However, if something were to happen to him, the Potters would once again meet the risk of separation from wizarding society. It's also worth pointing out that there is a bit of a difference between the way Bill and Arthur use the charm versus James's potential use. In the case of Shell Cottage and the Burrow, the Fidelius charm protected the property and its occupants by extension. However, in the unique case of the Potters, the purpose of the Fidelius charm cast upon them was slightly different. Its main objective was to safeguard the family itself, rather than placing emphasis on their humble cottage. This revelation is discussed by Professor Flitwick in The Prisoner of Azkaban, as he imparts wisdom on the inner workings of the Fidelius charm. As long as the secret keeper refused to speak, you know who could search the village where Lily and James were staying for years and never find them, not even if he had his nose pressed against their sitting room window. The intention behind casting the Fidelius charm upon the Potter's cottage in Godric's Hollow seems to have been focused on concealing the family rather than solely isolating the property. This could be attributed to the fact that the Potters had no need or desire to come into contact with individuals outside their trusted circle. On the other hand, the Weasleys, being active members of the Order, required interaction with fellow members, leading them to protect only the locations of their homes under the charm. What's also worth mentioning is that no one truly knows if hiding one's own person via the Fidelius charm is even possible. While James Potter may have technically been eligible to serve as the secret keeper for the cottage, the ambiguity surrounding whether the charm protected the property or the family itself, coupled with the obscurity surrounding the implications of the latter, leaves it all a bit too wide open. Why not Dumbledore? While we're on the topic, I think the elephant in the room needs to be addressed. Why not Dumbledore? Why not select the most powerful wizard of all time, who's also your major ally, to hold your secret for you? Dumbledore to me seems like an obvious choice as secret keeper. He wouldn't have even needed to be secretive about it. Dumbledore's high profile, but it wouldn't have mattered. Voldemort himself feared Dumbledore, so the prospect of him being taken down or targeted for information was extremely unlikely. Voldemort's fear of Dumbledore is even referenced by McGonagall. But you're different. Everyone knows you're the only one you know, oh alright, Voldemort was frightened of. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, it's even revealed that Dumbledore offered to take on the responsibility. James Potter told Dumbledore that Black would die rather than tell where they were, that Black was planning to go into hiding himself. And yet, Dumbledore remained worried. I remember him offering to be the Potter's secret keeper himself. This means that, even though Dumbledore offered, James Potter's blind trust in Sirius Black and his friends, whom he deeply trusted, was his eventual downfall. Dumbledore was close with James, but he wasn't one of the Marauders, and I guess James felt that he could only trust his friends to the extent required. I think that one of the main reasons for James not selecting Dumbledore is that Dumbledore had recently formed a relationship with the defecting Death Eater Severus Snape. Snape came to Dumbledore when he learned that Harry and the Potters were the target of Voldemort's attack, which presumably prompted the use of the Fidelius charm in the first place. This means that by this point, Dumbledore had accepted that Snape had switched sides. However, his new relationship with Snape may have instilled doubt in his other allies like James Potter. Ultimately, they decided to go with someone that they were completely familiar with, and unfortunately, their misjudgment of Peter Pettigrew's character was their ultimate downfall. My closing thought on this matter is that it really could have been avoided. They could have chosen almost any other secret keeper and things would have turned out fine. Furthermore, it was a strange decision to hide the Potters in such plain sight. A big house in Godric's Hollow seems like a strange place for a family being hunted down by Voldemort himself. And that's it for this video. What do you think? Had this thought ever occurred to you? Please let me know down in the comment section below. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.